Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to the season finale of the Gator Wesley Bios. Today on the show we have Kaley MaFadyen. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. So let's go ahead and start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, as you said, my name is Kaley. I am 25 years old. I am a graduate student doing research in the College of Pharmacy, going for my PhD. I study alcohol addiction and the brain mechanisms behind it. I am in my fourth year of that program. Been here in Gainesville at the University of Florida for about 6 years. Been coming to Wesley for about a little over a year maybe.
All right, so let's go and back up a little bit and tell us where you're from.
All right, I am from Mariester, Florida. That is in the Panhandle, about midway between Pensacola and Panama City, if you're familiar with that area at all. I grew up there, moved around a little bit as a kid, but basically by the time I started kindergarten, we were living there, and I lived there all through high school. Went to the same high school my mom went to, fun fact. Graduated in 2007. And then I spent 2 years at Troy University in Alabama. It was right over the state line from where I lived. It was really easy to go to, but I transferred to UF in my junior year of undergrad. And then I was here, graduated with my bachelor's in 2011, started grad school.
So can you tell us about your family and your growing ups?
Okay, I have two parents and a younger brother, and dogs. I've always had dogs growing up. What is there really to say? Like I said, moved around a little bit when I was a kid, but by the time I actually started school, we were living in my childhood home. My dad, for years and years growing up, was self-employed. He built decks and fences for pools and backyards and stuff. Living in a panhandle of Florida kept him in business pretty much all the time. He doesn't do that anymore. He's had a couple of different jobs since then. Currently, right now, he works with a good family friend, helping to sell and install giant stage curtains for schools or theater companies and stuff like that. My mom was an engineer, electrical engineering. She worked a lot of government contracts. I think she's been with Lockheed Martin for 20 something years or something like that. She's worked on fighter pilots. I think it was F-15s she used to work on, and then it wasn't she didn't work on the planes themselves. She worked on the simulators. So she would work on the simulators and training the Air Force people how to fly them and stuff. She worked with C-130s for a while, and then in a helicopter for a while, and then she went into technical writing, so writing the manuals for all of that stuff. And now she works in fire and missions control as a configurations management. I'm not entirely sure what that entails. She keeps telling me and I keep forgetting. My younger brother just graduated from FSU last year. I know, weird, he went there, I came here. And now he lives in New York, so that's pretty cool.
So can you tell us a little bit about your early education and for high school, middle school?
Okay, well, from kindergarten to 7th grade, I was at a private Baptist Christian school, Calvary Christian Academy. Yep. So I did all of my elementary education there and half of my middle school. After 7th grade, my parents decided to move my brother and I to public schools for various reasons. I mean, small Baptist school, there was, all of those. It wasn't the school wasn't horrible, but I had grown up with the same more or less 20 kids in my class, and you spend all of your childhood together, and then you hit puberty together, and you start butting heads, and it was time for a change. So I transferred to a public middle school, Bruner Middle School in Fort Walton Beach, did a year there, joined band, played the clarinet like my mommy. Then I went to Fort Walton Beach High School, which my mom also attended. She did Bruner Middle School and Fort Walton Beach High School, my mom's alma mater. I marched color guard in the band for all 4 years, and I played soccer all through elementary school up until ninth grade. Ninth grade was the last year I played competitive soccer. Yeah, so I was a band kid in high school. I did band all the way up to when I was in my time at Troy, and then I stopped doing marching band when I came to UF.
So as you just mentioned, you were in band and you did soccer. Did you do any other extracurricular activities as well?
Nope, soccer and band were pretty much it. If you've ever been in band, you realize that in high school, marching band kind of consumes your life. I was also one of the founding members, if you will, of my high school's winter color guard team. It's like if you take just the color guard from the marching band and put them inside on a mat by themselves and then put music through a loudspeaker, and it's just the flags and dancers or whatever doing like routines and stuff. And it was pretty cool to be the founding person, or one of the founding people in that my junior and senior year of high school.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your experience in band and soccer as well?
What is there to say? Soccer was a really good thing, I think. As a kid growing up, keeping me active and outdoors, and like I said, I was still at the private Christian school, and so that was like one of the only sports that they offered, for little kids, as everybody was doing soccer at the private school. So it was a really easy way for me to fit in public school when I did transfer. I made the school team there, and so it was a way for me to make friends and stuff. And then it just got to my point, my freshman year. High school is so much more competitive than elementary or middle school, and I play competitive soccer. I want to win, obviously, but I'm not I'm not going to devote all my life. I was doing band at the same time, and it was kind of like, well, you either devote all your time to soccer, or you're gonna stay JV all the time. And I really liked band more, so I took a gracious bow out. But I definitely loved my time with it. I think it gave me my competitiveness. I think it instilled in me a good foundation in teamwork and working with others. And then, of course, that continued in band again, because if you don't fit in and work as a team in band, you're not going to sound good. So that, just continued that. And then, I've always been a big believer that the arts is just so important, for kids to be involved with, because just the discipline required to, learn and perfect an instrument, and the beauty behind music. It's just really great. So I really enjoyed my time in band.
And as you also mentioned, after high school, when you graduated, you decided to go to Troy University, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
what made you decide to go there, and what did you do there?
Like I said, Troy University is right over the Florida-Alabama line. And since actually I was so close to the state line, Troy actually gave me in-state tuition, and then they had another in-school scholarship that more or less matched Bright Futures. Actually, it was slightly better than Bright Futures because it covered my dorm room too. So because I was basically getting a free ride to college if I went to Troy instead of to another Florida school, I decided to go there. The marching band there was another big factor. The band is one of their major recruiting things. I got nothing against UF's band or anything, but they're more of for the halftime show, because UF is more about the actual football game itself. Troy, their marching band, they focused on their show. They took it to exhibitions. They played at a bunch of local high school competitions to show them this is what you could do in college. You could still be really big in band in college and stuff. And then they invited local high schools to come and play with us at a college halftime game. So they were really big in promoting arts. So that was something that I liked. And then Troy, at the time when I first started college, I wanted to go into criminal forensics. So I just, all I needed was a basic biology degree, so Troy had that, so, I might as well go there. I like the band, they've got stuff for me to study, they're giving me, a free ride to college, so. Then I joined a fraternity. It's a fraternity. It was all girls group, but just because it's all girls doesn't mean that it's a sorority. So I was part of a fraternity, Sigma Alpha Iota. They are, it's music oriented. wonder why I was interested in that. So yeah, I pledged that the spring semester of my freshman year, and was really involved and active at that. Made some of my best friends in college through that group, and then just doing more stuff to help the band and promote the arts. Are you sensing a theme yet?
And you also said you decided to, after 2 years, go to transfer to UF, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what made you decide to transfer to UF?
I had decided, like I said, when I first went to college, I thought I was going to go into criminal forensics. And then, after taking a couple of classes, I kind of realized that I had kind of like the Hollywood CSI in my head. I wanted to be that person that could go to the crime scene and collect the evidence and then go back to the lab and analyze it. And let's face it, in the real world, if you're that person that does everything, you're in a small town. So either the crimes aren't going to be as glamorous for you to solve, or if there is a major crime, you're going to have to send the samples out to another lab somewhere to be analyzed, so you're not really technically getting to do all the lab stuff. And then, if you want to work in a major city, you don't get to go out to the crime scene and analyze and stuff. So I realized that I would never get to be that perfect Hollywood CSI, and it just, I guess, stopped appealing to me. Science has always been kind of like my strongest subject, so I knew I wanted to stay in science, and so I thought, hey, medical school. Woo! But Troy, all you really need again is, to get your prereqs, and then you can get into medical school. You don't really need to go to a specific undergrad or anything, but, Troy, as much as I love the band program there, you were either on campus or you were at Walmart or you were not in Troy. It's that small of a city. There was nothing to do, and I just, I started to almost feel, I don't want to say like I was like enclosed, but it was just, there wasn't that much for me to do. I'm very much I need to be doing things constantly or have the option to do so. So I just decided that I needed a bigger environment to be in. So I figured, let's, go to a school that's got, a pretty decent pre-med offering stuff, that have clubs and advisors and everything else that you could start to get involved in, because, med school is really competitive, so you need to have those things. And so I thought, okay, well, I probably need to go back in-state at Florida so that I could start using my bright future, so where do I want to go? And then I was like, oh, I've always been a Gators fan. So I came here.
And we're very glad to have you. You UF, and you got your bachelor's, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you got your bachelor's in?
Biology, pre-med, pre-professional.
Okay, in basic biology. And so you've decided to go to grad school with that, correct?
Yes.
And what have you decided to do in grad school?
Well, not medical school, that much.
Not medical school.
I decided that I'm a little too squeamish for surgeries, and that's kind of you don't have to go to medical school to be a surgeon, but it is one of those required rotations, and I just didn't want to deal with that. As part of, trying to build that resume for going to med school, though, I started volunteering in a research lab. And I just kind of fell in love with it. I picked a lab that studied alcohol addiction because I do have, some alcoholics on both sides of my family. My dad's father died when I was 9 months old. Kind of as a result of that, he wasn't like a non-functioning alcoholic, but it was, his kidneys finally gave out on him because of a lifetime of drinking. Similarly, in 2010, my dad's brother died of the same thing at 55. His liver failed, and that was because he was a non-functioning alcoholic. On my mother's side of the family, I have an uncle who's, besides alcohol, has been involved with a lot of drug stuff. So addiction was something that hit very close to me, and it was something that I wanted to know more about. I didn't want to go onto the clinical side and working with people. That's interesting and stuff, but like I said, the science is really what drives me, and so the brain is just a fascinating thing, and there's so much that we don't know about the brain mechanisms behind addiction and these behaviors, and how for some people it's so easy for them to try something once and then walk away, while another person tries the same thing and then they're addicted for life. So that was something that really called to me. So I got in this research lab working with alcohol addiction, and I just I love the challenges of it. I thought oh, every day I'm in the lab I'm just going to be doing the same thing over and over and over, and to an extent that's true. I have my basic set of experiments that I'm doing every day, but then once you get your data from that set of experiments, it's like, okay, well, where do we go from here? And so then you're designing new experiments, and you're like, okay, well, if that doesn't work, what else can we do? Or if that hypothesis is true, then where do we go from here? What does that mean? What are the implications that it could have? At the time when I first started, we were partnered with a medicinal chemistry lab that was manufacturing a drug that could have implications for helping to curb alcohol consumption. So that's something really fascinating. Like, oh, I could be doing the research that's laying the groundwork for something that could later, be a treatment for addiction. And that's really cool to me that I could be involved in a process like that. So I just decided that I was gonna stick with it and go to grad school. I'm still in that same lab, doing my thesis work now.
And the research you have done is very fascinating. And outside of the lab, what have you how have you been involved?
Okay. Well, I decided not to do marching band when I came to UF. I wanted to focus more on my schooling and building that medical school resume and stuff. So I needed to break away from music for a little bit, because at Troy I was like a closet music major. I was doing my homework in the practice rooms while my friends were practicing piano. Like, I didn't go to the library at all. Side note, nobody cares. So I came here and I wanted to be more involved. I was part of another fraternity, a co-ed fraternity called Alpha Zeta. It was an honor society, academic honor society that focused around agriculture. That was just because the biology major was part of the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences. So it was something that I was invited to, that a friend of mine was a part of. So I participated in that for about a year and a half. I was an ambassador for the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences my senior year of undergrad. So I just went out to a couple of poster sessions at senior high schools, talk to some students and come to UF, do medical school pre-stuff, yeah. And then just some events on campus, like when we have alumni come through or special guest speakers come through the college or something, then we had to play host to them. So that was fun. Other than that, been really involved in church. We haven't gotten too much into my religious background yet, but I'll just go ahead and throw out there that I actually grew up Lutheran. So when I first came to UF, I immediately sought out a Lutheran church. It wasn't something that they had in Troy. Troy is in the middle of the Baptist Belt, which was fine because I grew up at that Baptist private school growing up, but I wanted to get back to my Lutheran roots here, and they had a Lutheran church, so I did that for 4 years, and I loved it there. It was a good group of people, so I was really involved in that for my undergrad. Yeah.
So you have mentioned that you did get involved in church as well, and so how did you get involved?
Okay, funny story. I'm going to tell a story because this is how I met my best friend at UF. Her name is Ricky, and I had I found out what time church started at the church on Sunday morning, and I went to it, and I met a couple of people, but I didn't really remember anybody. But at the time, she was serving as kind of the leadership for the campus ministry group. And then a week later, I noticed that she was in one of my classes. So I kind of sheepishly walked up to her and was like, "Hi, do you remember me? I'm that new girl." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, hey, how you doing? You should come sit with me next time, next class." And I was like, "You're sitting at the front of the classroom. I'm not sitting at the front of the classroom. I'm gonna sit in the back. That's okay. I appreciate it. I just wanted to say hi." So then, ironically, we actually had 2 classes together that semester. And I didn't even realize that until one morning I'm sitting in the first class, and I'm sitting there and I'm reading the alligator paper. Class starts in 5 minutes or whatever, and she comes and she plops down next to me and she's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good, how are you?" And she's like, "You want to come sit with me today?" And I was like, I'm already settled here, I'm ready for class to start and whatever. She goes, "Nope, not a good reason." So she just grabbed my stuff, literally took my notebook off of my desk and grabbed my backpack off the floor and walked off and left me sitting there with nothing but my alligator newspaper. So I had to follow her and go and sit next to her that class. And I joke, but that was actually pretty much the start of our friendship. And then, so we had those 2 classes together, and then and then we went to church together, and she was part of the leadership team, so she just, pulled me in and got me going to their events and meeting people and everything like that. And then they had a choir at the church that was like campus ministry students could do it, but it was a lot of like the older people at the church doing it too. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to sing. So I joined the choir, and so then it just kind of you get involved and you start doing everything.
With that, you basically got involved with 4 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you stayed with that for 4 years, and then now you're here at Gator Wesley, correct?
Yes.
So what brought you to? So what made you change and come to Gator Wesley as compared to the Lutheran Church, and how have you got involved?
Okay. So basically, you have to understand, going to a private Baptist school through elementary age or whatever, that's a very impressionable time. So naturally, once I hit my teenage years, I started questioning things, and I went through a lot of struggles with my faith. And whatever, we're not even going to go into that unless you ask about it later. But by the time I graduated high school and got to college, I was settled in my religious problems, if you will. My spiritual journey was back on track, I should say that. My spiritual journey was back on track. The Lutheran Church is very big on just like traditional services, which it's nice. I like knowing that, every time we're going to go in, we're going to say the same call and response at the start of service. We're going to do the same litanies. We're going to have, the creed and everything. But as much as I love it, I need something that's a little bit more contemporary. I think a lot of my spiritual worship comes through music. Who would have thunk it? And as much as I love singing traditional hymns from a hymnal, like contemporary praise bands and really being able to like get in the groove, like jamming with the guitar and drums and all of that stuff. So I as much as I loved the Lutheran Church here and made a lot of friends and everything, there was like 10 of us in the campus ministry at the church, and then there was like the rest of the congregation whose average age was about 60. And I love them dearly. They were all like a second set of grandparents to me, but I needed something a little bit more. And so my parents back home had, for more or less the same-ish reasons, started kind of church shopping, and they landed at a Methodist church that had a contemporary service, and they fell in love with it. And I visited that church with them a couple of times when I went home, and I was like, okay, Methodist, that's kind of cool. I'll check out and see if there's like a Methodist church up in Gainesville that I can go to. And like, ta-da, I found Gator Wesley, and I came and just did like one church service, and I just fell in love with it and decided like, oh, hey, this place is pretty cool. I think I might come back a couple more times. And I felt bad, like, because I was like, oh, all of my friends are at the Lutheran church or whatever. But the nice thing about grad school is that not everybody goes to it. Some people just get their bachelor's degree and then get big people jobs and move. So I didn't have as many friends there, or the ones that I did have, when I talked to them and told them, like what was going on and why I wanted to make the change. They were very understanding. And I still talk to them. I'm still friends. I didn't just ditch them or whatever. They understand my need to come here and stuff, and my need to be involved here, and what it means for me spiritually to be in a more contemporary setting as opposed to the traditional Lutheran setting. So
now being here at Gator Wesley, how have you gotten yourself involved?
Okay, so it took me a while to get involved. I was actually attended off and on for about a year, and then this past summer, so just like a couple of months ago, one Sunday after church, Justin Hugon actually was like, hey, there's a group of us that are going to get lunch, come join us. And I knew a couple of people, and I talked to a couple of people at the after student lunches. So I was like friends with people, but nobody had gone out of their way at that point to like invite me to do something with them. So I did. I hung out with you guys. We got lunch. That was the first week that our little group played their Star Wars game. We did a Star Wars tabletop RPG for those, or not RPG, well, I guess the RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, like Star Wars style, one Sunday after church. So that's it. I started making friends and stuff, and so then the semester started, and like everybody came back, and it was time for people to get involved in stuff, and here we go again, music, because they came time to like anybody who wants to join the band, let us know, and I'm like, oh God, I sang choir at my old church. I've always been involved in music somehow, and I'm not going to play my clarinet anymore because I haven't touched it in years, and I don't feel like that fits necessarily as well on stage with guitars and everything. But I can sing, and I can stand up there, and occasionally I can shake a tambourine or something. So I'm going to go for it. So I got involved in the band, and because, like I said before, kind of music and singing is how I get my full worship experience. That's how I feel closest to God, is through praising Him in song. So I just thought, any opportunity to be the one leading other people who could possibly be connecting that way, because I know sitting in the audience for the better part of a year, listening to the band week after week after week, I can list a couple of singers and or instrumentalists who I definitely picked out as like, wow, they're really good leaders. They're really helping me feel connected, and so I thought it was time to give back, and be that person for somebody else. So that's the biggest leadership role, I guess, that I have at Wesley. Other than that, I still play games with you guys after church on Sunday, and I went on fall retreat this year. That was really fun. I've been to fall festival now. That was really fun. I went on the epic road trip. That was awesome. Got to go whitewater rafting. So yeah, just hanging out, building friendships, building a community, and just kind of worshiping with friends as friends, if that makes sense.
As you have gotten involved and you've done many things, singing, and you do board games and that nature, so what do you feel that Gator Wesley is to you and to the community as a whole?
To me, personally, Gator Wesley has served as kind of like a fallback / stress reliever. I've hit kind of a rocky area of my grad schooling where like, oh God, I've been in college now for 8 years. Is it really worth it? Like it gets hard. I've gone through I guess some darker periods, if you will, and just knowing that I could come here and not have to worry about what's going on in my lab or with my classes and stuff, and I can just goof around with you guys and hang out and play games and not worry about my life for an hour or two. That's been really important for me. It's also, having a reason to come here and hang out with friends keeps me from just going home and sitting in front of the TV and watching Netflix and spiraling deeper into that hole of blackness. And everybody who's ever been in school knows what I'm talking about when you say that hole of blackness where you don't want to do anything with your life but sit on the TV. You don't know what the future holds for you, and you're just stressed out, and you just wanna just like, ugh. So I needed to get back out of that, and Wesley was kind of that rope, that lifeline, if you will. That's what it's meant to me personally, and I hope to the rest of the community as a whole that I'm not the only student who's seen Gator Wesley that way. I sincerely think that there are multiple students who find Gator Wesley kind of like their escape from the stresses of the school world, where they can just come and hang out with their peers and just relax and veg, and then, oh hey, we worship God too, and He's pretty awesome, so that's a fun thing to do. And I'm really excited that Gator Wesley offers so many opportunities for worship and service and missions. I think that's really important that Gator Wesley tries to build itself as a community within itself for college students, but that it also branches out into the community at large and does its best to give back to the community at large as well.
And we are getting to the end of our show, and I want to thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, in our last few moments, is there anything that you would like to tell people that they should know or should already know about you?
I'm surprised I got through this entire interview without talking about the fact that I'm a martial artist. I, about 2 years ago, started taking Taekwondo I've done some training in Taekwondo for about 2 years now. I'm about 7 months shy of getting my black belt. I've also cross-trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's really fun. That's my secondary stress relief. When I'm really frustrated with everything, I just go punch on a punching bag for about an hour and then I feel better. And so yeah, I had to throw that in there because I hadn't talked about it at all during this interview. So there you go. I'm a martial artist.
All right, well, we thank you again for coming on.
And this has been the season finale of the Gator Wesley Bios, produced by James Jordan and produced on location at the Gator Wesley Foundation, which is the campus ministry of the United Methodist Church that serves at the University of Florida and Santa Fe College. Tune in next season for more stories, more people, and more Gator Wesley Bios. Thank you, and